Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Womansplain. Today, I am so excited to introduce our premier guest of our health and wellness season, Samantha Mashaal. She is currently the COO and previously the chief of staff of the Soto method, an innovative new wellness trend in Tribeca, New York, actually right near my apartment. I'm really excited to learn about her story. I'm going to pass off to her to do a little intro, and then we'll dive in.
Thanks, Brooke. Guys, I'm so excited to be here right now.
Oh my
circle.
God, I
Full circle.
know.
We have 3 generations of Penn here.
I know, literally.
And I'm Sam. I'm the COO at Soto. And I actually joined the company as the first employee or first operator. And if you're not familiar, Soto Method is a fitness brand, like you mentioned. We have classes online on our digital platform and also in our studios. So we've got locations in New York City and coming very soon. I'm super excited in Dallas this fall.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So lots of growing.
Yeah, we gotta ask. So Dallas is a cool choice. I would love to dive into that choice. It wouldn't
100%.
be necessarily what I would imagine. I would say
Definitely,
Miami or
yeah.
LA or something.
Mhm.
So we'll want to dive into that.
I love those questions. We will get there. And I actually discovered the method as a client.
Okay.
So I was using the product myself, and what I really loved is that the method is designed by a busy person for busy people. And as someone who started their career in corporate, and there was an era of my life where I was working 100-hour weeks,
Yeah.
and this method just really worked for me because it was rooted in a reality that was accurate for what my reality looked like. And here we are almost 2.5 years later. So much has changed. When I first took the job, Soda Method wasn't a known name or a known brand yet. It was just a digital product. So Hillary, the founder, was living in Miami. She was recording videos out of her spare bedroom. And I was, I guess, a remote employee. And very, very quickly, everything changed when we opened up our first pop-up in Tribeca. And it's been a whirlwind since then.
Yeah. How long have you been there now?
So I've been there for about 2.5 years. And I think one of the biggest questions that I get asked, because I love taking coffee chats, I love answering the emails, and the biggest question I get asked is, how did you get your job?
Mm-hmm.
And what these people are actually asking is, oh my God, you look happy in your job. I want to be happy in my job. How can I be happy in my job? And I can answer the first one with a story, which is how I landed the role. But then I think there's the other story of what it felt like to be finding the job. And that's probably more helpful for people who are in that situation. So the way I got the job was I discovered the product. I was actually unemployed at the time, in between jobs. Because I was a consultant in my past life, I was no stranger to working out in tiny, cramped bedrooms. When I was a consultant, I was really flying Monday to Friday, living in a hotel, and I would test pretty much every digital workout out of my hotel room. And I should also caveat that I did not like exercise. I'm not someone who runs marathons in their spare time.
Yeah. So you and me are against the wall in this team
Yeah.
over here. I always say
Listen,
I did not work out until a year ago. Like honestly, straight
Welcome.
up, did not work out.
You're
Yeah.
so
Welcome.
athletic now.
You know what?
Okay.
Pilates.
No.
Yeah,
And
Pilates.
Soto.
And Pilates, Pilates. It's okay.
We have
Maybe
3
Soto.
Penn people here, and only one of them has ran a marathon.
I know.
Those are good odds
actually,
for us right now.
we're in the minority.
Uh-huh,
We're in the
uh-huh. We're
minority.
underachieving.
I actually feel seen.
I got you.
Okay, sorry.
So I did my hotel room, and actually, this is such a funny sidebar. I was in this beautiful hotel because when you're a consultant, you're working like a dog, but you're living like a queen. And there was this walk-in closet in the hotel room that was just narrow enough for me to put down a towel and do the little downward dog stretches or whatever. And I remember one time I left the hotel room for work and I forgot to put away the towel, and I came back. And the customer service was so incredible at this hotel that they replaced my towel with a yoga mat.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
And forever, that is the bar of what incredible customer service is.
Great hospitality.
Great hospitality. And
Yeah.
I think, now I'm kind of in the service business. We
Yeah,
are
totally.
working with clients. And when I think about the golden standard of being one step ahead of what people want, it's replacing a towel with a yoga mat in a hotel room. But anyway, so I
That's amazing. I feel like that's something in Ritz-Carlton training or something.
Yeah.
literally
Like, I
Ritz-Carlton
don't like. I feel like
Yeah.
that. Like, right?
Or Four Seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did Ritz-Carlton training. It was life changing. Honestly.
did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I really want to hear about that.
Yeah.
I feel like we should bring that in and train everyone on Ritz-Carlton training. Anyway, so I had tried everything. I was unemployed. I needed some sort of structure in my day. I thought it was a financially irresponsible decision to be paying $45 for a workout class in New York City.
Yeah.
So I decided to try more online programs, and that's how I came to Soto. I was doing it as a customer. They have a program called the Transformation Program.
Okay.
It's sort of our bread and butter. It is the program that promises results. So it's 42 days, and if you follow the plan, we promise results in return for your commitment.
Oh, wow.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'll bet on myself.
Yeah.
And I did the program, and I was honestly shocked that I saw physical changes in around 3.5 weeks. Like I said, I had tried a lot of programs. I wasn't someone who considered myself an athlete, and I was really surprised that it worked. And I was sitting there, and I was in the midst of my deep search where, you're speaking to a million founders, and you're taking all these discovery calls, and you're doing all these interviews. And I realized I should throw Soto into the mix of potential companies. And so I got my job over Instagram DM. I
Yes.
DM'd Hillary.
Actually, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, we have a ton of young listeners. That's amazing. That's super inspiring, guys. Like,
Ye-
always, like, you never know what a DM
Yeah,
can
shoot
do.
your
You
shot.
never know what a DM can do. Shoot your shot.
Literally.
Some great love stories start in Instagram DMs.
Actually,
true.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Like the Hinge campaigns in the New York subway,
Yeah.
where they show real couples and there's an asterisk. Like, this is a
Yes.
real
Yeah.
person. They found love.
Yes.
If Instagram DM wants to rebrand itself,
Instagram.
I am ready.
sponsors
I am
Sam.
local talent. I don't even charge. Okay. So I DM'd her. We had a few calls, and the rest is kind of history.
So when you DM'd her, were you just kind of like, I want to just do anything for you? Or like, how did you kind of phrase that?
No. And I will say that I was deep into my recruitment process.
Okay.
And I think anything, definitely in exercise, but also in life, it's just true that as you put in reps, you strengthen a muscle and you get better.
Always. Yeah, always.
And so I was fresh. I was not rusty on my pitch. Like, I was fresh on my pitch. I
Yeah,
was
totally.
ready for this interview. And it was a very casual conversation where I got to know her. I got to hear the vision. And then we had a second follow-up call where I came very prepared with how I saw my role and what I could contribute.
Mm.
And I think I rooted everything in an understanding of her reality, which was that it was a self-funded startup, totally bootstrapped. There was no other employees. I was about to be her biggest investment to date. And I'm also an international, so there was no option to, start as a contractor and then ramp up. It was really like an all or nothing investment. And so I laid out all the things that I could do for the company that after my conversation with her sounded like something that should happen in the next year for this company.
And she had to sponsor you, right? I mean, that's pretty
Yeah.
tough.
Mhm.
I mean, I would say many even like pretty large companies don't sponsor.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Even
mhm,
startups, I don't even know. That's
100%. And without additional resource.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's so funny you say that you had to sponsor me, because I think if you're a Canadian, you know that there's two types of companies where you can get a visa.
Yeah.
The one type is a really big company where
Yeah.
they do it all the time and they have the infrastructure.
Mhm.
And the other is a really small company where you tell the founder, don't even worry about it. I got this. You just sign this paper right here on this dotted
Yeah.
line. And so lucky for me, Hillary was on board. It was a hilarious moment when I was sitting in the border security's office making my case.
Yeah.
And I had to explain to them why I needed to join a company of one that at the time was based in Miami. And I needed to move to New York to join this company of one. It was just absolutely critical.
Okay.
I'm sure
Uh,
they've definitely heard that story.
Yeah. I was just like walked in with this biggest stack
Yeah.
of paperwork
I
as
mean,
humanly
yeah,
possible.
exactly.
But anyways, I had those calls. And I think for me, because I was so deep into my reps of recruiting, I had such a clear checklist of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I really think the more that you recruit, the more you realize it's a two-way street. You're really
Mhm.
looking for your perfect fit instead of trying
Totally.
to fit into,
Yeah.
a role's mold. And so for me, I was looking for a founder or a very young stage company that had vision. I was looking for a company that had product market fit, because we were, for context, we were at this turning point where up until then, VCs had been fundraising based on the growth model. And it was a big turning point where now it wasn't about growth. It was about being able to prove revenue.
Yeah, it was like 2022, right? I mean, that
Exactly.
was rough.
Yeah, this was 2023. So it was like right
Yeah,
coming out
it
of
was
that.
rough.
Exactly.
It was rough.
Exactly. And so we had product market fit, which was great. And then the third box for me was someone who would have enough trust in me that they would let me build and grow everything around their vision and their product.
Yeah. So like you really wanted like a real like not an operator, you wanted an entrepreneur, founder, right? That you could then be the operator for.
Exactly.
It's a hard fit.
It's a hard fit, but she was wonderful. And I don't know if you've met her or gone to any classes, but Hillary has such a gift of speaking with conviction. And she had so much belief. And I think the most exciting part for me was that her vision for how big Soto could be matched my vision for how big Soto could be. And I honestly have chills thinking about it. It was just like, wow, we can go as big as we want. Like, we can do this. The ambition is limitless. And that is the story of how I got my job.
That's honestly amazing. That's awesome. I mean, it's so inspiring. I feel like I need to like take it in for a second and sit with it, but that's awesome and congratulations. But would love to just talk a little bit about like what was that like? I mean, your background was really McKinsey. You came from like the most structured like situation ever, right? And then you went into something where you're literally working for one person. Hillary is not really like, I don't know if I don't think she has a really structured business background. I don't know much about her, but she's kind of like fitness vibes. Probably had a completely different background than you. You were kind of also pitching yourself as like you're really needed. Like talk about walking into that pressure. And like how was that really scary? Did you feel like just no matter I mean, you just had so much faith in it, or just also working with her in a one-on-one scenario, remote, so different. Maybe working with a woman. I've never had a female boss. Like just tell us about that whole
I really
experience.
want to talk about working with women, like table that, and let's come back to that.
Okay.
But I want to say, first of all, so Hillary's background wasn't corporate. She did about a decade at Goldman in sales and trading.
Okay.
Which was very important.
That is important.
Very helpful.
Yeah. You got like the same base. You
exactly.
got the same base.
Same sense of teamwork
Yes.
also and structure. But if I can back it up even more, I think I felt really good and calm going into that call. And the reason was because of the like existential crisis I had 3 months earlier. And in between McKinsey and Soto, I was at a different startup called Thrive Global. It's
Ariane Huffington, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Ariana Huffington.
You were chief of staff.
Talk about an icon. I was chief of staff there.
Yeah.
I worked with some of the business leaders in the C-suite around Ariana. And
That's sick.
it was really
honestly
cool.
sick.
It was so cool. And I remember when I got that job, I think finding a job's kind of like dating.
Yeah, totally.
You always think your next boyfriend's going to be your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yes, this is it. And there's an incredible founder. She's an icon. All the people that they hired were so smart and brilliant. It was at the intersection of tech and wellness. It was my first time working at a startup. It brought me to New York City. Before that, I was living in Montreal. It was amazing. And then I think, like all relationships, you sort of hit this point where you wake up and it's not working for you anymore. And for me, that showed up in friction. I just felt in my job where I am the kind of person who's so focused on the why and having a lot of autonomy around the why to think about the best way to get there or the solution that I want to test out. And I wasn't feeling like I had that anymore. And I think my first lesson was almost like, your body is telling you that and your mind knows that for a while, and you can ignore that until eventually you can't.
Yeah.
And then it's like the skies part and the gods sing and you're like, I need to find something else. And okay, great. I realized I had to find something else. I left Thrive. I was now unemployed. And I just realized that I was back at square one.
It's also fascinating you left Thrive without the next step planned. Well, talk to me about that decision. I mean, you're a very, you went to Penn, you went to McKinsey, seems like you're a very structured type A person. It's pretty scary.
100%. And I got to tell you, I would not recommend it. And my parents did not recommend it. So
Yeah.
I do not recommend it. But the company was growing and there were so many changes happening internally. And at that point, I was sort of moving around between different C-suite leaders that I was supporting. And it just didn't make sense for either of us. And so it was really amicable and it gave me a lot of space and time to refocus on recruiting. And I just remember feeling like I didn't know where to go. I think the way I felt, especially because I had been a certain type of student in high school. And then I got into a great college and, I felt like I did college as right as I could. And then I got a great job out of college. And then I looked into business school and I thought, maybe I'd want to do that. And I ended up going to Thrive and testing out the startup path. And it's sort of this moment, and I've heard this analogy, I can't remember where I heard it, where you're on a school bus up until that point, right? Everyone's in high school, in college. Everyone's getting their first job out of college. That's probably 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And then at that 2-year mark, the school bus stops and you literally just get kicked off the bus and you're all sent into cars. And the thing about being in a car is that number one, you're driving alone. But number two, hilariously, we're all driving back and forth to the same locations. So I went from consulting to startup to maybe business school. Maybe someone else went from startup to VC to business school. Maybe someone went from business school to consulting to investment banking. But we're just driving back and forth to the same locations. And that was so overwhelming for me because I was like, wow, there's no right path here. There's no right next step. And how am I supposed to figure that out? Because the one skill that I had so much confidence in myself for was the ability to work backwards from point A to point B.
Yeah.
It's literally the foundation of being a consultant is if you scope the problem well enough and you break it down into its parts, you can get from A to B, no matter how big and how crazy point B is. And I was just at this new starting point where I couldn't figure out what point B should be. And that was so scary and overwhelming. And coming back to like that idea of dating or that idea of thinking about your self-awareness, I had to go on dates again. I had to call all these different people and ask them about their jobs. And I had to do all these interview processes and all these take homes and spend hours of my life on take home interviews.
Totally.
Only to either get violently rejected or get the job and then realize I didn't want it.
Yeah. And it seems like you were very self-reflective during that time, trying to figure out what you wanted in life, what you were good at, and kind of marry those two. And I know you ended up first joining Soto as chief of staff. So were you kind of looking at other chief of staff opportunities? What did you really like about that from your role at Thrive that made you want to continue?
Such a good question. I think the chief of staff is a catch-all title, and it's a blessing and a curse because truthfully, it looks so different at different organizations because of the scale of the organization and because of the person you're working with. And so if you're working at a huge organization, the chief of staff's job is to create order from existing chaos. And that's a very different job than working at a really small organization where your job is to build the infrastructure from the ground up to solve the chaos. And so I latched onto that title because it was starting to gain popularity. So it meant something to people, even if it meant something different. And what it protected me against was being siloed. So instead of being a business operations analyst, when you're a chief of staff, you are locking in access to C-suite, maybe a fast-tracked, promotion process, and the ability to touch all pieces of the organization until you can feel out that organization and decide where you best fit in that specific organization. So that's why I latched onto that word. But I will also say I was looking at every job. I mean, I was so not sure of what I wanted to do that I remember having calls with people in tech sales, which was a career I had literally never considered. And I was like, man, should I go into tech sales? And I will never forget, I was on LinkedIn scrolling manically at some ridiculous hour. And I saw this job posting for chief of staff at Charlotte Tilbury. And right. And it's
Very
like
cool.
2022, like Pillow Talk is
amazing.
I'm actually wearing Pillow Talk right now.
and
Yeah,
it
same.
still crushes.
Yeah.
And I remember it was going to be a fraction of a salary that I'd ever accepted.
Yeah. I mean, beauty and fashion is low.
And they wanted me to move to London, immediately. And I
Mhm.
just remember seeing that job. And by the way, not only did I not get that job, no one even talked to me about that job.
Yeah.
But like, I remember seeing that job and just feeling like if I closed my eyes and I thought about what my life would look like if I took it, it was so expansive for me. And I just realized that for me, a truth that I had to honor was that I wanted a job that felt expansive in that same way, where I didn't know where it was going to take me in life and that it was going to be a whole different adventure. And Soto has been that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I feel like that's also really unique at that point in life, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, at that point, you were young. I guess you were like maybe 3-4 years out of college, but also somewhat established. I mean, you'd built a life where you were. What made you feel like you were kind of ready to take that pretty crazy leap? I feel like you hadn't really done that before. So what made you feel that way?
I hadn't done that before, but I think going to Thrive gave me the confidence to do this. Because when
Okay.
I left McKinsey, my fears were, oh my God, I'm leaving a giant organization. I'm leaving the
Mhm.
structure. I'm leaving the resources. I'm leaving this network. That was so scary. But then once I went to Thrive and I saw all the things that stayed that I love from McKinsey, I saw all the things that were different that I love about working in a startup. And then when I started to feel the friction in my role and what I was craving in a new role, I realized every company can go under. Every company can exist. It's just going to reflect the chaos of the people running it. And so I actually wasn't scared of the fact that I was working with one person and not that many people had heard of Soto Method at the time, because at that point, after that many months of searching and conversations, I was really clear on what I was solving for, and it checked those things. Like my excitement outweighed my fear.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel you're so self-driven too. So the fact that you're joining an early company, you are, creating that roadmap, like in a consulting case, right? So this is like your case forever.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. Except I feel the difference is like when something goes wrong and it's a case study, you just talk about the data point. But when
Yeah.
something goes wrong on my job, it just becomes my
It's
Tuesday.
me. Yeah, every day. No, that's so funny. And so you joined as chief of staff. You were kind of like drawing out your role and your responsibility. You opened, the Upper East Side studio, definitely scaled the company. Tell us about how you were kind of figuring out what to focus on in that time, and then what were you kind of missing that made you want to, do more at the company?
So one of the most unique things about my role is that I was a chief of staff with no other employees, right? Like a
Yeah,
lot of
you're also
times.
the first employee, which
Right.
also that's like a whole different
It's
thing.
a whole
Being
different
a
thing.
first employee is a whole different thing too.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. And chief of staff, I can, attest, like means a million different things. But I think it's like it's a great title to like elevate yourself when you're young,
Mhm.
because you can be any age and any experience and be it. And then it can like actually 80% of people are chief of staff get elevated to C-suite right after. So
I love
There
that
you go.
statistic.
it's a good stat. So like honestly, it was a good
I'm-
title you gave
Yes.
yourself.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
manifest.
It's such a good question. So what's interesting about being the only employee, but also being chief of staff, is that you still want to be a chief of staff, which means making yourself indispensable to the person you're supporting, being their biggest cheerleader, and also being their biggest critic. And that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean to their face unless they are willing to receive the feedback, which I will always give Hillary the credit. We have a great culture of feedback. But you also need to be their biggest critic, because that's how you best assess where the gaps are that you should either be filling personally or be growing the team to fill. And so that aspect of my job, of kind of doing all these other jobs around Hillary, where she was amazing at all the things she was amazing at, and she is indispensable at the things that only a founder can do, sell the vision, lead the classes, refine the method, all the programming, bring on investors when we needed them. And so that left so much work to be done. And I just rolled up my sleeves and got involved, and sort of through the process of doing it realized, oh, this is operations. It's not all operations, it's operations and partnerships and HR and whatever else it is, but it was a lot of operations. And I think when you think about growth at a company, it's not about launching a flashy new program every week on the app. It's about delivering the same promise exceptionally time and time again. And when we opened our first pop-up in Tribeca, Hillary's job was to deliver the same exceptional result in a class experience the moment that the music started and she got on the mic and you were on your mat. And my job was to deliver an exceptional experience from every touch point around that, whether it was the email confirmation or the booking platform we used or the towels and the equipment. And as a Hail Mary, if you wound up in our customer support inbox, I had to deliver an exceptional experience. So the job sort of formed itself. And I think a really interesting thing is when you think about corporate growth, it's called the corporate ladder for a reason. You're moving up, your job changes. You guys have both worked in finance and consulting. And, when you're a business analyst, or that's what McKinsey calls it,
Yeah.
whatever you're calling it
Analyst,
anywhere,
whatever.
your job is to be in the weeds. Then you can become a manager. It's a totally different job.
Yeah.
Then you become a partner. Totally different job. Your responsibility is bringing in business. But when you're working at a startup with way less people, your job's not necessarily changing that much, because on day one, 5% of me was being a COO.
Yeah.
The only
course.
thing that changed is like as the company grew and the scale of it grew and the team grew, there then became a need for me to allocate more of my capacity to that role
Yeah, for
until
sure.
it eventually became a role.
Yeah. And I
Like,
guess how did you like kind of approach that conversation? I know you have a really good relationship with Hillary, but was that something that you were like scared to bring up with her? How did that go?
It's such a great question. I think you can have such a close relationship with someone, and it's still really important to carve out formal spaces to have formal conversations. And it's something that I think we do a good job of, but it's a very intentional effort. Otherwise, everything just feels like a chit chat.
Yeah.
And we had a series of formal conversations. We have an amazing team of advisors that we were able to pull in to amplify the formality of some of the conversations. And for me, it was really around, what do you want me to do? Here's where I think I can be most helpful to the company. And can we make sure that my roles and responsibility match my titles, that the scope of my work reflects the authority of the title? And, we had many conversations about what was the right step. What did the company need in that moment? And I'm so happy about where it landed. But I think any conversations like that can be difficult, and you muster through.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's even more difficult when you're in a chief of staff type role. I mean, you're basically the right hand. Like, I feel like is the best way I can describe it because there's like chiefs of staff that are titled other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're their ally. Do you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And I mean, like, I talk to my boss 20 times a day. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, literally,
100%.
normal day. Like, it could be 50 times. Like, it could be, so it is really, really difficult to like, I mean, a normal person talks to their manager once a day. Do
Mm-hmm.
like twice a day, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and not in person. So it is very difficult, I think, to carve out the like formal discussion about yourself, especially when the company's on fire, when you're growing so
Mm-hmm.
quickly. It just feels like this feels like the last priority. Like, do I matter right now?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know. How did you approach that? I think it's really difficult. And also, like, how is it different to approach, like, honestly, a woman? I mean, I've personally never had a female boss,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of wild considering, like, my entire passion is promoting more women.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't know. Sometimes I question, like, my own style. Is it actually, would I have to change myself at work to adjust to working to a woman? I don't know if you felt that coming from McKinsey at all.
Mm-hmm. I love that question. The first thing I'll say is it was also a really, in addition to the team starting as just Hillary and then the two of us, and at this point, we had a few contractors in place. Um, this all overlapped, this tremendous period of growth and bringing the product into a brick and mortar product and then really scaling it, one pop-up to two pop-ups to a permanent studio to trying to secure leases for more permanent studios, bringing more trainers in, figuring out how to scale the method, getting some of those trainers on the digital platform. In tandem with all this happening, Hillary was on a fertility journey. She
Damn.
became
Yeah.
pregnant with twins and she delivered twins.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
I was,
Honestly,
like,
I love that
following
you
along.
didn't Google this because I get to see the shock factor in
Honestly,
my life, and I
icon. Like,
love
fucking
it.
icon.
So I saw it on your
Iconic.
Instagram. I was like, how is she doing this? And she's pregnant with twins.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I guess it was an opportunity for me to step up even more.
Yeah.
And, just immerse myself. And I think that I will never know what it is to become a solo founder and create something and try and convince people to care about it. I won't. But I really understand what it is to enter a company where there's just the founder and there is product market fit, but there isn't scale. And I understand what it is to care just as much about what the company could be and to believe so much that I make it my personal responsibility and do everything I can to make sure it becomes as big as I believe it can be.
Yeah.
And I think that level of caring and stepping up and, in all of our conversations, putting the company and the brand first, which is such a communal way to anchor things, really helped the conversation and the transition. And I think when it comes to working with women, I love your question because I come from McKinsey, and the one thing about McKinsey that I take with me is the culture of feedback. They teach it to you on day one in the training program, and they teach you how to give it and they teach you how to receive it. But the basic philosophy is that feedback is the backbone of this company. You need to be able to give it upwards and receive it and also give it downwards. And you can't progress in that company unless there's enough people below you who have as much conviction in wanting to work for you as someone above you who wants to be your sponsor and bring you up. And
It's actually amazing.
It's
I didn't know
crazy.
that from McKinsey. I
It's crazy.
didn't really expect that, honestly.
It's so funny because it doesn't mean that you won't find a bad egg or someone you don't jive with, but it means that that person has found their people.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's enough.
I mean, it's also like project based. So you work with
Yeah.
so many different people. So like after a project, which is, could be 2 weeks or 2 years,
Mhm.
you always have that feedback session.
Yes.
There's also a gazillion people there. So, like, honestly, if you're good
Truly.
at your job and you're not insane, someone's going to like you.
Exactly.
Honestly.
It's so true, but
Like-
it's still important to find them. And
But
it's still
it's
important to
still-
hear everyone else's perspective and then be
Totally.
like, was that good feedback? Do I want to take it? And do I want to work with them again? Or are we just not the right fit?
Yeah.
I mean, with Hillary also coming from Goldman, like that is
100%.
also very
100%.
like, lots
She
of
was on a
feedback
trading
there.
floor.
Yeah.
She worked with way more men than I did. I want to say
Yeah.
consulting is really almost 50-50 up
Oh,
until
wow.
a
Trading is
certain-
probably like the most men.
More
I mean,
men.
that's
Yeah, it's
insane.
just
I don't think
it's
I
just
can do
truly.
it, honestly.
And consulting is women, I want to say up until a certain level of seniority, and then you start to see more men. But so she was very familiar with that. And I think
Mhm.
as we grow our team, we're a team of all women.
yeah, I mean, hey, it's fitness for women. I mean,
Mhm.
come on. I don't, I mean, like, honestly, it's your product, it's your customer.
100%. And the most interesting thing is that I think women, especially women who are nice people and they're good people, and that's who we're hiring, they want to be nice and they want to be kind, and women never want to be mean. Never want to be mean. But the thing is, feedback is neutral, right? Feedback is supposed to come from a place of care, for a shared care for the product and the work output and the results. And so I think the biggest thing that I try and carry with me and our team tries to carry is clear as kind. And being direct is actually the most generous thing you can do, even if
Yeah.
it's not the easiest thing to do. So that's a
For sure.
great question. I think you don't find that a lot in all female teams. I think you don't find it a lot in less structured workplaces.
Yeah.
And it is one of my favorite things that I learned there that I hope I take with me everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I actually think I have a lot less trouble being clear with men. I actually don't.
Totally.
Mostly because I think I had to train myself that like men are a lot more direct. Do you know what I'm saying?
And
So
they're
I'm like,
direct back. And
they're
they're not
direct
going
back,
to take it personally.
and like it's fine. But
Mhm.
I've managed a lot of women, and I've actually had to force myself to be
It's hard.
clear
It's
with
really
them.
hard. They're
and I'm less hard on them,
Mhm.
honestly, which is like
Mhm.
honestly a point of feedback for myself that I will take. But I love that clear as kind.
clear
Yeah.
as
It's
kind.
true.
I like that,
Clear as
yeah.
kind. And honestly, like I would say, like everyone would rather know, right? Like at the end of the day, it might hurt in the
Totally.
moment. No one loves getting criticism. I think most people have an emotional response in the moment. But like at the end of the day, you would rather know. So
100%. And you can also frame it in a way where, again, we're anchored on a shared output. We're
Yeah.
anchored
Mhm.
on me having a good work experience and you having a good work experience.
Yeah.
And that hopefully creates a safe environment for the way you're delivering it.
yeah, and then they can give you feedback too, which is
Mhm.
always
Yeah. Let it flow in
welcome,
both directions.
right?
100%.
For sure.
which is also
Manage
really
up and
dope,
down.
really, really
Mhm.
That's
tough.
what we learn.
Mhm.
Well, I really love how Soto has become really a part of you. I know you have been there from the beginning and you've really shaped the culture, the product, the scale. How has the company kind of changed since you joined? And has there been like a change in culture or ethos, or has that always been kind of from Hillary?
I love that question. I think the business has changed so much
Mhm.
in terms of the scale we're operating at, what we're offering. Um, even just fine tuning things. Like when you first open a studio and you're trying to figure out the best class schedule and the best types of classes to teach in studio, there's so many variables that you can play with. And I think we finally have reached a point where a lot of those variables have steadied and we know who we are and we know what our client cares about. And that's a really nice place to be. I think the core of the brand will always be the same, which is a product designed for ambitious people who care about
Mhm.
potential, but who also have a lot of other priorities in their life. And the idea behind the workout and the structure is that it's modular. And so when you come to a class in studio, the trainers are intentionally stacking those modular blocks to give you a full body workout. But if you do it at home and you have to pause the workout or you don't have time for 9 blocks, you only have time for 2 blocks, that's how it's designed. And I think that ethos does carry into how we speak about everything at the brand. Get it done. It doesn't need to be perfect. Still have a shared bar of excellence. I think as we've grown our team, which by the way has been like such a joy for me because I think no one talks about how much work, any work, I don't care if it's your first job out of college, is the ultimate frontier for facing your own demons and facing your own ability to emotionally regulate yourself.
Totally.
And being at a company where it's small and you are now managing people or you're hiring people is just like even higher pressure waters to be testing those things. So it's been a real gift to grow the team, and our team's amazing. But I think the shared piece between everyone is I don't want to manage you. I want you to own your domain, and I want you to care so much about it that even if when you're initially brought on, there's a scope for what it would look like, run with it. If you have a different why, if you have a way to make it bigger, go for it. And I think that shared sense of what excellence looks like and what ownership looks like is what has defined the company culture. And I think that so many aspects of it come from Hillary's initial bones of the brand, but so many aspects have also changed with each person who's joined the team. And I think my favorite piece, something I think about as a manager, is the concept of retention. And my favorite piece is, if you asked me, how do you manage retention? That is such a big, scary question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like me, how do I manage it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But then if you really think about any moment in your own life where you have been in a position of threatening a company's retention, people don't leave jobs. They leave managers. They leave environments where they don't have purpose. They leave environments where they don't feel like there's progress for them, or they leave environments where they don't feel like someone's investing in their growth. And so I don't need to ask myself how I think about retention. I need to make sure that everyone around me feels so empowered by the progress and the growth that they can have, and that I'm hiring those types of people who are motivated by that, and making sure that I'm giving them the space and support. And it's not just me, it's every single person on the team. You know, we have someone who, her name's Courtney. She does a wonderful job at training and nurturing the talent of our trainers. And her job when she's working with trainers is to make sure that they always feel growth and potential and purpose. And, you know, that has shaped the company culture so much.
That's amazing. I want to talk about training because I know,
Yeah.
like, well, one, I've heard kind of the Soto method is like kind of like the trendier modern Tracy Anderson.
Okay.
Is I don't know if you like resonate with that, but it's basically like Tracy Anderson for like the corporate woman, like the
Okay.
corporate modern busy woman, more attainable, kind of like similar vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of give our listeners an idea of what it really is.
Can I
yes.
give
Please
you
correct
more
if that's
there?
incorrect.
No, so that analogy works so well in one lens, but not at all in another.
Okay.
So it works so well, I think, if you think about how our businesses have started. Like
Yeah.
Tracy has an amazing online platform. She has flagship studios in similar locations to we do. Maybe she's even catering to a similar audience. The big difference is Soto at its core is designed to be approachable.
Okay.
And not only that, but because it's designed to be approachable, the moves are the most basic things you've ever seen.
Okay.
And they're like foundational moves that a physical therapist would like tell you to do, you know, squats, planks, jumping jacks. And so there's very low risk of injury. There's very high repetition of movements that you know what's coming. And the idea is that it's not just that it's designed for an ambitious woman, but where the Tracy Anderson woman has all the time in the world to do a 90-minute workout, the Soto woman might have 5 minutes, and it's designed with that limitation in mind.
Okay.
So-
Amazing.
yeah.
Incredible.
So something that I found interesting was like we went to class
Mhm.
together, and that was the first time I was doing
You
it.
gotta come to class. I'm really
Yes.
excited.
Yeah. I'm
I think I'm gonna
almost
take you
scared.
there
I'm really
tomorrow.
unathletic.
Wait,
I know,
can I
believe
come?
you.
I'm
Please
coming.
come.
Okay.
Please come.
I have to go. It's literally like
Yeah,
so
it's
close
literally
to my
next
house.
door.
I have no excuse.
It's
Yeah,
literally
no
next door.
excuse.
But when I first took it, I was like, wow, these moves are so like they just appear really easy, and it didn't feel like it was like working out the muscles that I thought it would work out versus like I normally do, you know, crazy hit workouts where I'm like sweating and like crying from pain.
Mhm.
And this was like, oh, like I don't know how this would work. And I never have tried the module, but it seems like it was intentionally designed that way so that it's working whatever part of your muscle in like in a repetitive way
Mhm.
if you keep doing it for
Mhm.
whatever for 42 days,
Mhm.
as you said. So like what's the science behind that, and how do you kind of develop new programs?
Mhm. So we're using very basic moves. And I will say, I'm not a trainer. I'm not a certified trainer. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I don't lead the programming. But the idea behind the workout is that we're using basic moves isometric holds, and then we are exhausting a muscle by following that same roadmap and just piling on moves of that muscle group. So let's say we're starting with a glutes block. You're going to do a 60-second hold. That's going to be a squat, call it. And then you're going to go into 5 moves for 20 seconds each that exhaust the glute and repeat them twice. You're done. That's 4 minutes and 20 seconds of glutes work. And then you stack on different muscle groups. And so the science is that when you tell someone, here's exactly what we're doing, they will fully commit and they will exhaust that muscle group, knowing that when we switch into arms, your arms are not tired. Your arms are ready to go. You've got full energy reserves in the arms tank, even though you just exhausted the glutes tank. And so it's just very intentional stacking while using really basic exercises to exhaust different muscle groups through repetition. And what I love about Soto, and what I actually hate when I'm taking the class, is that there's cardio in the Soto sweat. I did not do any cardio, but it's 2 blocks of cardio. They're spaced out, which means it's 8 minutes total of my workout. And it's really just 4 minutes and 20 seconds that I have to get through twice. And mentally, I can commit to that, even though there was no chance in hell that I was going to run 8 minutes on a treadmill. And so there's also the component where you are bringing back cardio and, you know, forcing people to get some hard exercise in, which if you're doing HIIT, you're already covering that. You're running marathons. You're not the girl I need to be talking to. But like if you're only doing Pilates.
I haven't run since PE class. And honestly, I tried to get out of that. I successfully got out of that a lot.
Very impressive.
I think the last time I ran, I was
long.
maybe 11.
Sorry.
I honestly might have been 9. I honestly don't even know the last time I
love
ran
that
a
you
full
got
lap.
out of it, because I think that the way we all survive
Yeah.
tells us like what our tools are. So like some
Yeah.
people survive by making 25-page study guides and highlighting everying, and other people survive by just talking to the teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
you just
my God.
got to know what tools are in your
true.
kit.
I watched her dog. I did so much shit for that PE teacher.
Yeah, and you got out of it.
Shout out Miss Lemon.
I love that.
Honestly, I hope if you're still teaching PE, I don't know if you gave anyone more mild excuses or fake
You're like the last
injury,
person.
absence.
Asthma.
No, it's all good. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. But Hillary literally developed this herself,
Mhm.
right? How was she then like teach this to people? I feel like
Mhm.
that's a crazy transition, right? When you're like, I developed this whole basically innovative program
Mhm.
myself. I now have to teach it to other people.
Mhm.
When I have to also figure out how to teach it to people live.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how supporting her through that and what that was like. 'Cause I feel
Mhm.
like that's a pretty crazy.
100%. So I want to give credit where credit is due. She created the method way before I ever discovered Soto. She created it out of her own personal workouts. She was, like I said, working on a trading desk, so she needed something that fit into her day. And she started, basically product testing the method in small group workouts over Zoom and at her house. And so that's how she slowly flexed the muscle of teaching. And if you take her class, you'll notice that her teaching style is probably unlike a lot of other fitness trainers that you've taken, because that's not where her
Background,
years of
technically.
yeah, exactly.
Training, yeah.
And that is her edge, because when you take her class, and this is what made me fall in love with the product, she's speaking to you with a sense of shared reality for what your life
Yeah.
looks like. And so it feels more like a motivational TED talk. She's talking to you about pushing yourself and redefining goals and holding on for another second. And, she'll often weave in challenges at work or in personal life that a lot of us deal with and are often top of mind when we're coming to a studio. And so her teaching style is really unique, which is why it's a great question. How do you scale that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
really
also
tough.
love that because personally, like especially when I was like in banking and PE,
Mhm.
working 100-hour weeks, I was like, I want to be congratulated for showing up, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, do not yell at me. Okay, do
Yeah.
not.
Oh.
Congratulate me for being here.
You ought to ask her about that. She once went to a workout and got
Okay,
yelled at, and
yeah.
it has definitely impacted
It's
the way
crazy.
she
It's
teaches.
why I like,
she will
yeah.
not yell at you.
I'm like, okay, well, let me know how my pitch deck was at 3 a.m. and then I showed up to my
it's
7
like,
hour
yeah.
class.
Pay
Like,
to be
fucking
here.
congratulate
Yeah.
me.
And so
Like, honestly.
she starts with this idea of like, I don't know how much energy you have in the tank. You
Yeah.
do. But you're here. And so like, whatever that looks like, just commit to that number. And as long as you don't negotiate with yourself while you're in the middle of this workout, and you hold yourself to whatever the bar was, maybe it was 20%, maybe it was 60%, give 100% of that 20%.
I love that. That's great.
And in terms of scaling that was really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. At that point, we had our director of professional development, who I mentioned, and she has a background in fitness. She herself was a professional dancer, and so she was a really helpful addition to the team.
And she's like a more traditional fitness instructor, it sounds like. I feel like all the fitness instructors are professional dancers.
So she was actually a Nick City dancer,
Whoa.
and she wasn't a teacher. She worked at a different similar startup studio
Cool.
where she was on the corporate side. She went
Oh,
to,
sweet. Wow. What a background.
I can't remember, we're gonna have to blur this out, but like somewhere in Philly. What were schools near Philly?
Temple,
Temple,
Maybe?
Drexel.
Not Drexel.
Villanova.
Villanova. She went to Villanova.
Oh wow.
And wow, my Canada is really showing when I'm just like
No,
list random
Villanova.
universities. And she went to Villanova, and so she actually worked in finance very briefly before she became a dancer. So she was
Wow.
on our team on the
Knew about
corporate
that.
side, but has a lot of experience working with talent.
Okay, cool.
And it was so interesting for all of us. I think we all chipped in with our strengths. You know, we had Hillary break down how she structures a class, how she thinks about which moves to pull in. And we really iterated on that training program. At first, it was, okay, how do we break down the roadmap, which is super direct 60 seconds and then 20 seconds times 10 moves. Great. Now we've taught everyone how to use their timer. How do we teach them how we stack blocks? How do we teach them how to weave in music? How do we teach them how to weave in cueing? How do we teach them how to weave in, all these other layers? And what was really interesting is we learned so much from the first group of trainers that we trained. We have iterated and revised the program so much. There are things that trainers will ask that I'm like, man, I didn't even think about that. They go, should we demo this before for this section because we're already lying down, or should we not? Valid question, super nuanced. And so I think it was really helpful to have everyone there. And I think one of my edges was being someone who knew the brand so well, but wasn't Hillary. So it wasn't personal. So I could distinguish when something was a Hillaryism versus when something was a scalable foundation of the brand. And they were so intertwined, but they actually are separate and need to be separate if you want to scale something to a certain size.
Yeah, it's very niche and something that I haven't thought of before. So I guess-
Totally. It's like
yeah,
when a brand starts as one person and it's
Yeah.
their personal voice.
yeah,
What stays and what separates? Because one person is always evolving, but the brand voice can't be always evolving.
Yeah.
And she did such a beautiful job of that. But it was just really fun to be there and be like, I know this brand. I know who we are because I've sat here and watched you and I've been part of it and I've been part of building.
yeah.
And now I feel like I'm in a great unbiased seat to raise my hand and say, I think this is the line. Let me know how that sounds.
Yeah. And it worked because you were also the customer first. You were that woman taking that class in your hotel room.
Totally. And I'm a version of the customer, right? Like
Yeah.
we have customers who are hardos, and I'm a hardo at work, but I'm not a hardo at life. I'm not running marathons, and we
I'm
have
a
people
hardo
who
at
are
life.
running marathon. No, truly. And I love it. I hate exercising, I'm someone who's doing it because I have to do it and I want to see the results, and like I've read too much science.
You're ripped.
Because now I do it. And you know what? I totally have moments where I like it. For anyone who hates exercise, like one of every 20 classes, I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm unlocking something right now.
Yeah.
But all the other 19 classes, I'm just,
That's good to hear. That's very motivational. Like,
yeah.
I thought you like live, laugh, love.
no.
Exercise.
No, most of the time I'm watching people exercise and I'm on a laptop in the corner,
Honestly, Soto, the method for people who hate to exercise might
Honestly,
be the
that's-
new motto.
Motto? You know what?
Honestly, like it's a pretty good motto.
We
I'm
don't
not gonna lie.
pretend it's fun. And I think for me as a customer,
Yeah.
I was so tired of people telling me
Yeah.
that like we're gonna dance cardio and
like,
it's
no,
going to be
it's
the
pain.
highlight of your day. And for me, that didn't resonate. It wasn't clicking. And so when I tried this and there was no promise of fun, there was just promise of results and of
Like a short period of time, I feel like, and kind of clear goals. It's like a KPI tracker.
It
It's like
literally is
here
a
are your clear
KPI
goals.
tracker.
Like check all these things.
Totally. The coolest part of it, like the reason I like exercise is because you just trick your brain into thinking you can do something hard. And if you do it at the beginning of
Yeah.
your day, the rest of your day is just easy.
That's true.
Totally, it's true. It is absolutely true. It's so good for your mental health.
And, like,
Honestly, it's wildly good for mental
You
health.
get endorphins, you're nicer to
Yeah,
people.
you are not- yeah.
I'm nicer to people if I exercise.
And you have more energy.
Distresses you,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, there's untold benefits of
Yeah.
exercise, like for sure.
I love that. It's like the one thing all of science can agree on is that
Yeah.
exercise is good, but
It's
let's
science.
reinforce it. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And I know you've been doing a lot of really cool collabs.
Mhm.
You had a famous person on your story yesterday.
Mhm.
I forget who it was.
Sean White.
Sean White.
Whoa, sick.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's cool. Congrats.
Yeah. So tell us about, I guess, some of the cool partnerships and collabs you've done.
Mhm. So I think what's really cool about women who come from a corporate background is that there is a lot of overlap in all of our networks, especially Hillary's, but even as mine is growing. You guys are incredible. The other women who have joined our team also come from corporate backgrounds. There's just so much cool overlap in everyone's networks around people who work at other companies. And sometimes it's the person who's the face of the brand, but sometimes it's just the person who organizes partnerships of that brand. And that is really, really cool. Like one of my favorite stories is that we did this very fun. I just want to say parts of my job they are as fun as they look, and other parts are really, really hard. But there was a really fun part where we got to go to Aspen. And I went with Hillary and we led 3 classes this summer. It was like a 3-day trip. It was a quick in and out. And we tried to set up as many meetings and whatever as we could. And there was one night where I was off the clock and I'd never been, and I had friends who kept telling me go to this restaurant, and I was going alone. And I haven't eaten alone at a restaurant probably since abroad.
Yeah.
And so I was a little nervous, but it was also kind of became a test for myself. Like, can you still do this?
Yeah.
And I brought my Kindle just in case. And I went and I sat at the bar, and there was this girl next to me who was probably around my age, and she was sitting there with headphones in. And I was like, I'm not going to read my Kindle. I'm going to make a friend right now.
Yeah.
And I tapped her, and she was totally, why is this girl talking to me? But I pushed through. We became friends. She works at Sakara Life.
Oh my God.
love.
Wow.
Right? She was like, I
Hey.
work in wellness. I was like, no. fucking
What
way.
a
You're like,
perfect-
me too.
Mhm.
Perfect
Honestly.
partnership.
What a perfect partnership. Yeah.
And we just had a big partnership with Sakara.
Yeah.
And it was such a
Wow.
big moment. They highlighted Hillary specifically, which was really, really cool. And they did an amazing photo shoot with a bunch of other, founders and mothers. And it was started because I tapped someone at a restaurant. And so I think the partnerships come from networks, which are ever expanding and is just, I think a lot of people forget that networking is actually just being nice to people. And then when time does its thing and they come back around, you have an ally in the room.
Totally.
Um,
And giving too.
Totally.
Networking's a lot about giving.
Totally. Like it's not, hi, so nice to meet you. It's not a lot of let's go on a
No.
coffee chat.
No.
And that was just like a great example of that. And so we've been so lucky. There's a portion of the partnerships that are through networks, especially through Hillary's. And then there's a portion of the partnerships that have been really fun to watch because they're inbound. And
sick.
that's really exciting. And I think for me, one of the things I've absorbed is partnerships. And for example, we have a partnership with Joe and the Juice.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I
That's
remember.
like also so perfect. Such a
Incredible.
fit.
Incredible.
Perfect.
And I remember I was obsessed with making it happen when we had our pop-up on Warren Street. The Joe and the
Yeah.
Juice was on the
Yeah.
corner. We ate there every single day. And I'm not even kidding. Like Hillary it was her pregnancy craving. So we ate it every single day.
Wow, what a healthy one. I
Right.
feel
Yeah.
She got
okay.
sandwich. It was good. And meanwhile, I'm eating chicken sandwiches at like 11 a.m. because she's hungry and she's been up since 5. And I just remember, felt so good. And I had a friend, Marissa, who I think you met actually. She runs a matcha company in the UK, and she
Oh,
had
yeah,
worked
yeah.
We
with
were in
Joe and
London,
Juice. And she kind of put me in touch, and I was having a really tough time getting through to the person in the US. And everyone, I could feel that on their side, they were handing me off. And finally, I ended up speaking to this girl, Val. And I remember when I went to this meeting, I was so nervous. I was running late. I had sprinted there. I was out of breath, and I was pitching her like, and it was a disaster. It was my worst pitch I've ever done. And she was so nice. She literally looked at me and was just like, yeah, like take a breath. She's also the
Chill.
chillest person
I love
ever.
that.
She's like, don't worry about it, And, we've become friends since, and the partnership has grown with Soto growing, with Joe's Wellness Club growing. Like an entire wellness club sort of came out of the first few events we did, which has been so cool. And that's an example of one that sort of came out of nowhere, out of no one's network. And it was just being absolutely relentless over email. Like if you look at that email chain, please no one ever look at that email chain. But it worked out.
Yeah. I
That's
love that.
amazing. Honestly, I feel like you have such a road of just persistence too. You seem like obviously you were really I also love that you were kind of not settling for a job. You end up at Soto. That's amazing. You obviously are pushing through all of these partnerships. I feel like it's such a I don't know. It just seems like a really good theme for you. Just persistence
Persistence
and
is
resilience.
Oh, I love that. You know what? I always joke that okay, I get through life in the least efficient way. I identify a target and then I elbow everything in my way to get there. Not people. I would never hurt people, but just,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
visual of it. And my boyfriend gets to the exact same point by just letting everything glide off his back on his way there. And that would for sure be a better approach, but I'm going to stick to mine. Thank
Yeah.
I
you.
think I
You
love
learn
it.
so much
I think it's
along the way.
incredible. It's
Mhm.
inspiring.
Mhm.
Honestly, I think it's super inspiring. It's a good reminder of just I don't know, kind of be fearless.
Wow.
Yeah, go
Thank you.
after
That's a
what you
big
want.
word. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think being fearless, if that's what we're going to call it, is
Yeah.
actually a lot of sitting alone with your feelings and being
Yeah.
honest and
Mhm.
also not judging yourself. Like, I think when I realized that my last job didn't feel good for me, I had so much judgment that I had failed because it didn't feel good. And I owed it to myself to kind of sit down and say, okay, I know why this doesn't feel good. I know what would need to change in an environment in order for it to feel good. And instead of spending all this energy having judgment on myself for that, I need to try it. And then when I run into the next issue, take it day by day. Because it's really hard when you have a pattern of hitting a wall in certain work environments to not turn around and say, oh, I'm for sure the problem. And maybe you are the problem, but it doesn't matter. Honor that you're the problem, find an environment that rewards the problem.
I love that. No, incredible. And speaking of future and growth, just what are you excited about for 2026 for Soto? I know you guys have tons of things on the roadmap. What's something you're most excited for?
I mean, the fact that we're going to Dallas is crazy.
Yeah, tell us about that. I feel like
That's
we
a
should
great
circle
market,
back.
honestly.
It is. I feel like, yeah.
Is it gonna be in
Learning more about your
Uptown?
product, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oil and gas, lots of work,
Yeah.
right?
You
Lots
watching
of
Landman
alignment.
too?
No, I'm thinking of
Whoa, are you watching Landman?
No.
Oh my
no,
god,
but I
guys.
am sorry. The founder of Poppy, she did oil and gas banking in Dallas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
just watched
God.
a podcast,
Oh.
so that's what I
Oil
was
and gas
thinking
banking in
of.
Dallas. So
Yeah.
I think we have, speaking of team, we have someone on our team now who runs the real estate process of securing LOIs and doing the initial research. And excuse me, she's amazing. And we are so lucky that she has been with us as we were scoping Dallas. I don't think that we could have done it without her.
It's going to be in Uptown.
It is going to be in Highland Park.
Oh, perfect.
But Dallas is big, which I like
Dallas
about
is big,
Dallas.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think to your point earlier, a lot of people would recommend that you grow your brand in concentric circles to capitalize on brand awareness. So if our hub is New York, they would say, go to New Jersey, go to Brooklyn, go to Connecticut. And that approach makes a ton of sense, especially logically, especially if you think of all the things I've learned in consulting. That's exactly what I would have told someone to do in a case study. And by the way, I hope we get to all of those places. But I think for us, it was a combination of art and science. You're establishing yourself as a brand and you're saying this is who we are. And we're a national brand. We started as a national brand. We started as a digital product where we could see our subscribers all over the US, but also all over the world. And, choosing to go to places where we have really strong pockets of subscribers follows that brand identity. And also, another really important thing to consider is a fitness studio can't survive if it's a destination. A restaurant could. Like, a restaurant could open in the middle of Brooklyn. Like, I went to Misi. I'm getting in my Uber at whatever hour in the pitch black. I'm going there and I'm coming out and maybe I'm training, but I'm still getting right back onto my mode of transport and leaving.
Yeah.
And when you're building a fitness studio, you need a certain number of people who can come there and make it part of their everyday routine. And so it
sure.
can't be a destination. So you
Yeah.
got to be in a place that the consumer behavior enables, enforces, amplifies that.
Geography is destiny for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so, I think California is something that a lot of people talked about. I'll go to LA. I love LA, but I think it's really hard to get repeat visitors in LA.
So spread out. Where are you going to go in
driving,
LA? Also,
parking.
tons of competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where can you reach? Are people going to drive the distance for you? The cool thing about New York is that someone from the Upper East Side will get on a subway and come to Tribeca for their Saturday morning class.
Yep.
And so I think it was really important to find a place where that same consumer behavior was modeled. And Dallas, I've visited a few times before we secured the deal, and everyone has been so nice. It is warm. Everyone loves exercising. I have the greatest feeling about it, and I'm really, really excited. And it feels like a whole new, it's square one in a different way. Those people didn't come to a pop-up for Soto Method before we opened that studio. So it's going to feel new and it's going to feel really cool and exciting.
I mean, that neighborhood has like very similar consumer profiles as New York, as Tribeca.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They have stuff. I feel like they pulled the best of New York, the best of LA, and the best of
agree.
Miami.
They have the best restaurants now.
Totally. There was like an honor bar right nearby. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I'm honored to be amongst these people.
Love.
I love
Well,
it.
Smash, this was an amazing episode.
This was so fun.
This was so fun.
Guys, I have to tell you, by the way, for anyone listening, it is like 8 p.m., 9 p.m.?
Yeah.
It's 9 p.m. on the coldest night in New York
Yes,
City.
the coldest night.
The fact that we're
Like,
here,
I know.
I've got an episode of Tell Me Lies waiting for me at home.
Oh my gosh, it's insane.
Don't tell me what happens. It's all uphill from here. I'm really excited. And yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys. This was so fun, for letting me yap.
Well, I guess last question. What advice would you give to a young person who wants to take a leap in their career?
I think treat your career like dating, whatever that means. It's okay to look for whatever you're looking for right now and just make sure you're checking in with yourself about if it feels good. And if it doesn't, don't judge that.
I love that so much. I love that so much. That was great. Well, thank you so much for being on. This was incredible. Where can we find the Soto method?
Oh my God, great question. Thanks for saying that. I should be thinking about that. Okay, you can find the Soto method on Instagram at Soto method. You can find us on our website, www.sotomethod.com. I've never said that out loud before. And you can book classes directly there, or you can sign up for our app. And actually, if anyone who's listening to this would like to try the app, it would be my pleasure to give you guys a code to give to
Yeah, we would
everyone.
love that.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. We would love to have a code for our listeners when this goes live. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Samantha. This was an absolutely incredible episode. I feel inspired. As always, guys, thank you so much for listening. We are Womansplain Pod on all socials, and please email us hello@womansplainpod.com if you have any questions. And thanks so much. And go to Soto Method.
Go to Soto method.
I love that. Women's Played Pod on all socials. I should have adopted that.
Yes.